What's up, everyone? This is GamerRez with the Pixel Vision podcast, and this is part 2 of our special full-on Castlevania series coverage. This will be taking a look at more of the modern Castlevania games, starting from around the PlayStation 2 era up to any current recent trends of Castlevania, as well as Metroidvania games we'll be talking about. If you haven't seen part 1, check the link in the description, possibly a video annotation on YouTube, or maybe a link in the show notes for Stitcher or Transistor or whatever podcast app you may be listening to this on. Hope you enjoy!
So the first thing that needs to be stated about the DS Castlevania is the departure of the art style changing from Mayumi Koshima to...
Koshima wouldn't return.
Was
I
it
don't
like
believe
just
until I
someone
think she did.
uncredited?
I think she might have.
I think that was...
Could be, but they changed the portraits to an anime song, what Rez would do.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dawn of Sorrow's box art and everything very much.
Generic anime.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad.
There are mods to change the art style to like the Castlevania
Wait, really?
portrait art. Yes.
I actually
For the
did not
DS
know that.
version.
That's really cool.
Yeah, there are actually. It's more substantive.
What differentiates Dawn of Sorrow from Aria?
So it differentiates it.
Besides the touchscreen gimmick.
Yeah, I was
Why
gonna
the game
state
is
that.
infamous.
Let's just do that right now. So Dawn of Sorrow came out when the DS was fairly new still. Like we didn't even have the DS Lite. So that was when we had the DS Fat and everything.
Yeah.
And whenever you beat a boss, you basically had to draw this glyph thing really quickly. And if you fail, the boss gets a bit of their health back at the fight to the end. That is like only really use the touchscreen throughout the whole game, and it's kind of a waste.
There are mods that just do it automatically.
Yeah, thankfully the game itself is still great. It's a great fault to Aria of Sorrow, even if you have a bit of a disagreement in terms of the art with the box art and the portraits. The sprite work is still very much just an improvement over the GBA game. Again, it does borrow pieces from Symphony of the Night once again. I don't think too bad. Some parts are more noticeable than others, especially a repeat boss. Most of the bosses, though, are just specifically for Dawn of Sorrow. The story itself is really interesting. It feels even more like an anime, honestly, because
Now you're up against a team of anime artists.
it's not just that, though. Basically, it plays off the fact of that you beat Aria of Sorrow with the real ending, so Soma still has control of himself. But now there are other people where Dracula's castle is still around that believe they are destined to be the reincarnation of Dracula. So now it's kind of a race to the top of Dracula's castle to find out who's actually the reincarnation of Dracula. And it does the same thing again with
The multiple endings.
yes, where you could have Soma once again be overtaken by Dracula and then play as Julius. I can't remember his name. Julius Belmont and defeat him. And battle's actually a lot harder than this one.
And there's a special Dawn of Sorrow that's unique to this game.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that, but I remember having fun.
If you can fulfill certain conditions midway through, you basically unlock a retreat playable.
Yeah, also an
Retreat.
interesting thing for Dawn of Sorrow that was a bit bizarre is actually there's a mode where you can actually literally through like DS wireless connect. It's just local only. It's not Wi-Fi, but you can like. It's not just a boss rush. You can actually place enemies. Like Anthony and I did this all the time.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so we made little challenges for each other to come. Because you had the stylus. You can argue this is the kind of stuff that started leaning towards things like Mario and March of the Minis, which led all the way to like Mario. Like this kind of started laying the building blocks of, hey, did you know you can use the DS's touchscreen to make levels? Oh wait, that's only the best idea ever.
Yeah.
So this kind of started that a little bit. I'd love to see Konami actually do something like that. The gameplay though is just really building off of Aria of Sorrow. You have the soul system again, level up, inventory, all that. It doesn't really do anything new. It just kind of builds off from there, and it's just basically the continuation of the story. The second DS game though, I'll move over to Shadow and Melora because
Well, one thing I want to note about Dawn of Sorrow is because it was so close to the DS's, because Aria of Sorrow was kind of pushed out, they re-released Harmony of Dissonance and Aria of Sorrow in a combo pack. It's also great for the Castlevania double pack.
I have it.
But for me, I played Dawn of Sorrow before Aria of Sorrow, so I was a little confused, but I think it was just a quirk
I
of
did
kind of the time period and the timing of things.
I actually did.
because of the timing of the GBA launch, of the DS's launch and the GBA's late lifespan, I think that's probably what happened for some people.
Well, I remember seeing Aria of Sorrow for the first time on Anthony's Game Boy. It actually was his brother's.
So now
Brother actually had it.
so we'll move on to next.
Yep, so next would be Portrait of Ruin on the DS, and I'll let Melora talk about this one.
Portrait of Ruin is kind of like a spiritual successor to Bloodlines. You have Jonathan Morris, who is a descendant of John Morris, who is the protagonist of Bloodlines, one of the two protagonists, and Charlotte Olin, who I think is also an indirect Bonlada's descendant, and they go through Dracula's castle in search of this vampire that paints. And in this castle are all sorts of these paintings that you will just jump into, and you get to enter various worlds. There's like a desert world, there's like a forest, there's like a lot of different worlds. Charlotte and Jonathan have two different play styles, and Jonathan mostly focuses on weapons of all kinds. They could be close range, they could be far out, they could be projectile. You could even throw a pie.
I forgot about that, yeah.
And Charlotte uses magic.
She's a witch, basically, isn't she?
Yes.
And so this continues from Bloodline, so is this like loosely still following the old Castlevania timeline then?
Yes, a little bit. So Bloodlines took place after... It's so strange. Elizabeth Bartley was the one, and all her minions, or was the one behind the assassination of Franz Ferdinand and stuff.
Okay.
Is the stuff
Archduke Ferdinand? Was his name Franz Ferdinand? It was? I'm not just thinking about the band here.
Well, I mean, it's Archduke Ferdinand, that's World War I, yep.
Franz Ferdinand is actually his name, right? Oh god, I'm very bad at history. I'm good at Castlevania history, bad at real history.
Fantastic. Don't worry, neither of them will get you a well-paying job.
The Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was his real name.
Okay.
So thank God.
So that game took place around World War I, and Portrait of Ruin takes place around World War II, which is a really neat setting. I think it's 1942 or in that general time frame. There's a lot of neat potential with that setting that I think could be used a little bit better than it was.
Well, I was gonna say, was it used? Like, what's the
Not
point of saying that?
especially, and I wish they used it a little bit better at least.
Castlevania is kind of going by the fact that Dracula and Demon Michelle kind of existed between real human history.
Sometimes,
It's
somewhere
weird,
between.
They kind of coexist,
Yeah.
But World War II was going on at the time. I think it would have been really cool if they sort of explored that setting a little bit more, but they did not.
Usually it's better to keep it within its own bubble so it doesn't get too silly.
Fair enough, yeah.
Because there's some games like, didn't you play Operation Darkness that tried to make World War II into like a big vampire thing?
No, basically it was these two hidden units that basically it's just like one unit's basically a bunch of people with special powers or werewolves or something. They have this hidden Nazi division which apparently determines pretty much are vampires and supernatural.
We're talking about a strategy RPG that was on the 360 basically that has like an alternate history angle. Like
For me, it was obscenely hard.
Yeah. it's a very unbalanced game.
It's
But
so
just,
unbalanced.
It reminded me of that, is what I was looking to more. But yeah, I never knew it had that direct connection to history, that sort of thing.
One thing she's not mentioning too is she mentioned the two different characters that you could switch between. You mentioned the fact they actually work together.
Yes.
Yes!
Which was new
You
to
can
Castlevania.
switch between them on the fly.
And very famously, they yell each other's names when you switch to the other one.
Jonathan!
Jonathan!
Charlotte!
Jonathan!
Do you just spam that button and it'll just go on
Yes.
in perpetuity?
Yeah, but even more so, you need to use both their abilities to solve the puzzles
Yes.
together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas, say for example, Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse was still very much
You
okay.
could
Swap to
swap.
Alucard here so you can fly. Swap back to Trevor. Like that.
You can, yes, and so Portrait was not the first game where you could switch between characters.
No, but it was when they worked together, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yes.
To actually solve the puzzles.
Portrait also has a similar mode where you can play as the vampire sisters, Stella and Loretta. You know Eric from Bloodlines? Those are his children.
Oh.
In the beginning, sort of like towards the beginning of the game, you run into this ghost and his name is Wind, and he's dressed in not the most original name.
Did not know this at all. Go on.
I think you do some fetch quests for him or whatever, and then you come back and that's Eric, and he reveals himself to you as Eric, and those are his daughters, who have been corrupted by the vampire Brona, who is the artist in charge of the castle. It ties into Bloodlines, or at least attempts to there as well. You can also play as the two vampire sisters in an auxiliary mode.
So I want to move on to Order of Ecclesia?
Yeah.
I admit I haven't played Order Order of Ecclesia in too much depth because it was a little difficult for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do say it's pretty hard. Like
It's a very Castlevania 2 style. It's
gets
deliberately
hard.
a throwback to Castlevania 2.
Yes.
I couldn't honestly get through it.
It gets a bit hard.
Just didn't really like the game.
Well, let's explain at least the story and like how it
let her
structurally.
explain that too. Go ahead.
Order of Ecclesia is actually my first Castlevania game that I played through to the end. So this is kind of my wheelhouse right now.
I see.
Or relative wheelhouse. Yeah. So Shinoa is a young
The lead
lady.
character.
Yes. Has very obscenely long black hair. She is a member of this organization called Ecclesia, which means church. Like, if you'll notice that a lot of the Latin used in this game is very on the nose.
Order of Church.
Order of Church.
Yeah, the
yes.
Order of Church.
That's how I always pictured it. Actually, Ecclesia, that's Greek.
I am from
isn't
the
it?
Order of
Or-
Church. Okay, so you're apparently part of a church order then.
You are Shinoa, who is a member of the Order of Ecclesia, who is bent on taking Dracula down. Her partner in crime, Albus, the person she works alongside,
Her
Albus,
partner.
I think they're sent to like go fight Dracula. Albus runs away. Shinoa has to go find him. Eventually you go out to the city and that's like your starting point. And you can move freely to a whole lot of different environments.
Yeah, there's like a hub kind of town area.
Yes. And there
There's people
you'll,
to talk to,
you'll
like
access
Castlevania.
the shops, you have quests, things like that. And the actual meat and potatoes takes place all across a world map. This is a unique game because you're venturing outside of the castle, actually outside of it, and not in like some sort of illusion world.
Right.
Because Portrait of Ruin, you were just kind of going inside the painting.
Mario 64 style.
Yeah. Order of Ecclesia, you were talking to people, you were traveling, you were just sort of doing things. You killed enemies, and you would bring the rewards back. You would have to have a certain amount of a certain thing on the end, and you'd bring it back to somebody.
Yes.
So there were some little quests involved there, too.
Fetch quests.
Yeah, but the structure was definitely different from that of the previous games, which might not have been people's cup of tea necessarily.
The way you equip things and attack in Order of Ecclesia is very different from the previous entries, which is also why it kind of takes some getting used to for some people. You have to defeat enemies and they'll drop glyphs. Some glyphs will be given to you. There's a glyph assigned to X, Y, and R. And you can actually equip these glyphs with the power of the tattoos that she has on her right arm, left arm, and her back. The back glyphs are generally some sort of ability in general that is not offensive. While
Like a
the
passive
X
skill.
while the X and the Y are what you're using to attack.
Right, remaining yourself.
Active and passive.
Yes.
Okay, so back is passive, the ones on the arms are active.
Yes.
In order to absorb a glyph, you hold it up, and she lifts her hair up, and the
Yes.
back on the back, her tattoo glows. Oh, jeez.
They
And
got
it
to
just kind
emphasize
of like
the hair.
vacuums
Yes.
and it goes. I read that Iga based her on his wife, and it's like, that doesn't surprise me one bit. Like,
It does look like beautiful, as we know from Bloodstained.
yes.
We'll talk about it soon.
Eventually. Technically speaking, after Order of Ecclesia, there's only one other sort of canon, not really, Castlevania game, and that was a download-only title that was released on the Xbox 360 called Harmony of Despair.
The only multiplayer.
Yeah, only multiplayer Castlevania game in existence, and essentially it's just let's recycle sprites from the past DS games and Symphony, and then sell it to people.
Yeah, people
And
literally
it's
just
fun,
squish
but it's
everything together.
absolutely
Yeah.
And plus, they piecemealed the whole game out in DLC.
scary.
Kind of like what they did
It was
with
just
one game.
literally just. There was no DLC. It was DLC. It was nothing. It was only a download. Okay. There is no DLC in it. It's just a bunch of pasted together assets. Like, here's the game.
And they kind of left that out of limbo, but there is someone who ported it. You can have fun with that, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I guess maybe.
And then there's the Xbox entries called Castlevania Lords of Shadow 1 and which were outsourced in true Konami fashion of the era
Yes, to a developer known as Mercury Steam.
out of Mexico.
Oh, no, Spain.
No,
They were
Spain.
actually in Spain.
Okay. Now, Shadow, which one did you play?
Oh, you did play two. Oh god, I'm sorry. I only watched it on YouTube.
Well, I kind of had to commit because I needed to do the story. Because I have to know the next thing in the story, so I have to suffer.
Yeah, I'm already
You
invested.
just had to see
would you
Ballsack
have been
App's
missing
Alucard.
Yep.
Oh, God. How could I forget?
So what's the actual story of Lords of Shadow? I avoided these games because I heard things.
So, alright, I'll start with Lords
Patrick
of Shadow.
Stewart, very...
Let's get this out of the way. Lords of Shadow, for whatever damn reason, was directed by Kojima and is mostly narrated by Patrick Stewart.
He must have spent most of the budget, honestly.
Oh, when I say I should be more specific. Hideo Kojima, aka the creator of Metal Gear. So, I'm sure y'all know who he is. I don't know why, but Konami had him direct this. That's it. That's all his involvement. And it was narrated by Patrick Stewart. I, again, don't know why. Yes.
Kojima
Picard.
with the celebrity.
I don't know why.
Kojima just likes celebrity.
Yeah.
I don't think he told me
that
how
his
to do
decision?
it. I have no idea. We'll probably never prove
Probably
on
like a
that.
key for Sony when you need a big actor.
So, Lords of Shadow, just talking in terms of gameplay first, is... Okay, Devil May Cry, God of War, as well as what recently came out too, which was Dante's Inferno, which the creators blatantly admitted was a God of War clone. They were totally okay with that, and they just wanted a cool setting to make a God of War clone. Greek mythology was already done. They went, hey, what about the Divine Comedy? That works, fight a bunch of demons. So, at least they were shameless with what it was. And that was fine.
Dante's Inferno was a fine game.
Yeah, it was fully aware it did nothing new.
Yep.
It was just fun. The problem with Lords of Shadow is, as a game, purely as a game, it's just a bunch of already done ideas, so it's fine. The combat is basically watered down God of War / Devil May Cry, complete with a color-coded system of hitting enemies. So like I said, it is more dumbed down. You have a light and darkness meter. You can chain combos. You have the whip was replaced with the combat cross, which...
Apparently, that when you swing it, it's a freaking from something.
Yeah, it's like a chain whip thing. I mean, it's interesting. Honestly, out of all the things Lord of Shadow did, the combat cross was probably the coolest thing that ever came up with. And the last thing I could say that's good is, while I don't think the music is as beautiful as anything on Symphony or the GBA games, it's good. It's just kind of forgettable.
It's very cinematic of the era, sort of, let's try to be a movie.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely like orchestra, and that was also one where Konami literally was it Konami or Mercury Steam that said that? Because I know you hate this. Didn't Mercury Steam say that the music was sounding too feminine in Castlevania?
Yes.
So they purposely changed it to be more like epic orchestra, which I have a problem with, but becomes way more forgettable when, I don't know, every several billion-dollar movie coming out is just basically Inception horns and then orchestra back
But
and
if you
forth.
heard Baroque music, it would men be capable of feminine sounding a lot of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of ironic.
It's honestly, I don't even say
The
this very
problem
often.
isn't
It's sexist.
the problem
honestly.
is
and I rarely
assigning-
say that.
The problem is assigning music.
Yes.
You really can't handle something like that.
There are women who can make very, masculine things.
You will not
Yeah.
assign a gender to Barbie girl. I feel like that's like the argument they were trying to go for here.
Yes. Funny enough, because the producers of that band Aqua are two guys.
Yes, that was the joke I was getting at.
Well, the thing is, I treat the Lords of Shadow games completely as basically. I don't compare them. I don't add them all to the timeline at all.
No, you
Just freaking
can't
fought to
anyway,
say it.
because that was
They just
that
made up
and
their own shit.
yeah, that and the atmosphere of it at the beginning had a very Van Helsing feeling. You do play as a Belmont.
No.
Yeah.
No,
And
But
it-
apparently, at
and
the
it's-
ending, you become.
So wait. Don't
Yes,
get
you
it. You do play as a Belmont, but it has kind of like a Van Helsing atmosphere to it. The graphics are good for its. They're good. Everything looks good at that point. Even if it ran 720,
Yeah.
it's not going to get much better. Alright, that's the end of my praise for it. As far as the biggest sin that the first one committed, it absolutely just took the lore and went, what is this? And just scribbled over it with a crayon and magic eraser and whiteout and just slapped on whatever the hell they wanted, basically.
But it gets much more egregious in these. The first one, it's pretty reasonable to
We're
kind
still
of
on
keep yourself at. I know. I'm just saying that this problem is still there, and it does get worse.
It's Gabriel, so-called Gabriel Belmont.
Gabriel
Correct.
Bell. Yeah.
Ironic, one of the name of the archangels.
Yep. I mean, fitting, the Belmonts definitely would using that, but...
Yes.
Another thing, too, in terms of this game's sins, as I say, the game isn't original, and I seriously meant that. There's almost nothing original about this game from a gameplay perspective. It rips off God of War, rips off Shadow of the Colossus, kind of rips off Kingdom Hearts, too, because it has actually worse than Kingdom Hearts. It has a ton of QTs that have no point.
Like the triangle button section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least those were, mostly at the end. I always just think that because I was first interested. But even, the QTs and the quick time events in God of War are usually timed with Kratos ripping something's head off or something. Try to simulate the feeling of what he's doing so it feels progressive. This just kind of took that and just kind of clunkily slapped it on. So there's a QTE segment of just using the combat cross to, I'm not kidding you, basically web sling across this field, and they did something like this in Lament of Innocence with the whip, and it felt natural and made sense. It's at the end of the first dungeon in Lament of Innocence. Yes. But the way it was done here was just, there was no reason. Because when you did that Lament of Innocence, it was to actually, after you defeated the boss in the same room, you need to get something at the top. And Lords of Shadow, I don't know, this is his method of transportation for about 5 minutes in the game, and then you don't do it again. There's literally no point to it.
There are a lot of nods like that, but it feels...
Yes, because they don't have a purpose. The whole game feels like, let's just put this here because it looks cool. They don't bother connecting anything. And speaking of it looks cool, I'm spoiling this game because it's really not worth playing. So basically, Patrick Stewart follows you around and narrates your journey as if he's Picard, basically, because that's the only voice he does anyway. So, Picard is narrating Castlevania now. You don't even start off in the castle, which Castlevania games kind of did start that way, but it takes forever to get to the castle in this one. There's a bunch of subplots that go absolutely nowhere. A blind girl with this powerful knight guardian that goes nowhere. And all the way at the end, what is the twist? The main boss is
Satan.
Picard, who is actually Satan.
Yep.
Oh?
Yep.
Okay.
Satan. And apparently, after you beat him and do something then, you become the Dracula.
Which is stupid.
Okay.
And then...
No, we're not done. It gets dumber.
Oh, yeah.
So, after you beat the endgame boss, who, by the way, Satan sounds really cool, like, probably has, like, powerful, it's like Balrog, basically, up on the mountain from Fantasia. No, it's just basically Nathan Explosion with a little devil tail and no shirt on. That's all the boss fight is. That's all the boss fight is.
I was
it's
actually looking
not,
it up.
It's all good.
I was actually looking it up, and I'm just like, there it is.
Also, half the boss fight is just a cutscene with QTs, of course. The end game is even worse. You see Patrick Stewart walking through New York City to Dracula's castle, where
it looks like a
Gabriel is now Dracula. It's like, it's cool, and admittedly, his throne is awesome.
Yeah.
It's like dragons and gargoyles. It's cool. The artist gave it a good effort there. Hats off to them. Fuck whoever wrote this, though.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Is that just the end of 1?
Yes!
And you know what?
And we're not at the train wreck of 2, but we're very close.
Gabriel, you are.
So in between 1 and 2...
And then Gabriel was Dracula.
God, it's so bad. It's like a twist written by a kindergarten. What if the whole time... you were Dracula! That's cool, but it was literally just slapped in there.
Slap it on with the might of Zeus.
Nothing led up to this. That's the worst thing. The whole time, you're playing as Gabriel, you're not really saving people, but you're just kind of fighting these rip-off versions of the Colossus from Shadow of the Colossus. Yeah. And the fights really are that. You scale their body.
Great value God of War, and also great value Castlevania.
It devalues all of the great 3D PS2 games, if you want the fucking truth. That's what this was. Let's take all the great 3D PS2 hack and slash adventure games. You can even throw in Jack and Daxter there, probably. Now let's just shit on them. Because that's basically what this game is. In between 1 and 2, you have a 3DS game that falls between the ass crack of Castlevania fans and Lords of Shadow fans.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, Lords of Shadow actually had fans.
So this is Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate.
Yes, and like anything else that's stuck in your ass crack, you don't want to touch it.
Is Mercury Steam trying to make an old school, like a Metroidvania themselves, but not really getting it?
So first off, they made it 3D.
They
made it like
2.5D. It's 2.5D, yeah.
Yeah, but it's 3D models on a 2D plane, which, there's a handful of games that actually work that way, and the rest that's what Mega Man X7 is good.
Man.
Mirror of Fate, what is Mirror of Fate's plot again?
All I know is that Sypha, they kill her off as an auxiliary character.
Why? She's actually very important to this game's lore.
To the series lore, yeah. The Lords of Shadow lore, no.
Alright, let's just get to the train wreck.
No, there's also fall damage.
Yeah, there's fall damage in the Castlevania game. Yep.
Now, here's the thing. Since we're approaching the most abomination number 2, which I'll tell you now was the most agonizing game to go through at all because I couldn't stand it. 1, modern day Why? And the very open. Let's start with the opening.
Arya and Dawn of Sorrow denied.
But it was just mostly its own little thing. It's not like you're
was
walking
contained.
around the parking
Let's
lot.
start with the opening.
It was contained
Yeah.
in the castle.
The opening
Still
starts
unchecked.
with Dracula's Castle, which looks freaking amazing.
The artists for Lords of Shadow did a good job.
Yeah, he made.
They were just told what to do.
The artist for the Emoji Movie.
All the hatred goes to the director and the
Yeah.
writing.
Because it just opens up with him that the castle's under siege by some massive army of crusaders. Just like, why didn't you guys do this for? Why? Why are you guys doing this? You just see him just sitting in his throne, drinking a nice, obviously blood, obviously. And it's like breaks in, he just shows you the tutorial. And let's not get into this situation when you fight this giant paladin using the cross. And it's just, the whole point of the siege, the castle looked good. But the whole thing was like, the whole battle was pointless. Then it goes into basically what happened, the whole thing, trying to connect the entire plots together. And then it wakes up with you sitting in something that's probably a rented castle. It looks like a church, and you just see him just sitting like a tree, because he didn't drink blood for God knows how many years. And he just sits there like an old man. Then, what's his name comes in?
Alucard show, which I need to mention now.
Everyone looks so dejected around the table right now.
This game is awful. So
Draining our spirits.
Alucard is not actually the son of Dracula in Lords of Shadow 2. He's the son of Trevor Belmont.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, his name is literally Dracula backwards. Mercury Steam. What the fuck? Were you smoking crack up your ass?
Dracula? Who's that guy?
Seriously, this series did so many weird things.
Also, Trevor was Simon. No, the Simon was Trevor's.
The final boss is still Satan, but we'll get to that.
Oh my god.
Guess
show's back!
It's just like, what the fuck? I killed you in the first one.
Oh, but no, don't worry. I have plenty to say about that fight because it basically rips off Kingdom Hearts 2.
I hate my life.
I'm not kidding you. It is literally the Xemnas fight from Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh, great.
Actually, it's Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. It has both. If I'm more
to rip
one.
off.
Behold.
There's nothing original about this. I'm just going to continue because I think Melora is losing it. Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 basically tries to do a modern day setting thing with modern technology, and there's one mission where you have like a meteor and stuff. I think I remember there's like gas or something. It tries to be Resident Evil sometimes. I'm not kidding.
And I feel like the whole castle segment is pointless. The old blood's trying to turn you. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then Gabriel just kind of is just.
Are you saying
good
the
again?
blood? Are you saying the blood made him evil and go crazy or something? What the hell does that mean?
And then you also, the game kind of like tries to be so many things. Like at one point, there's like a meeting with Patrick Stewart's character. And I can call him that because I don't remember his actual name.
His name is Zobek.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, Zobek. I mean, and he's like telling you,
Yes, my cousin Zobek.
yes,
Sorry,
Satan is going to
put the
be.
RJ out of that.
Yeah, Satan is going to be coming back, and we have to prepare for it. And then you, oh my god, the gameplay is really bizarre. I'm trying to remember all of this disaster. There's this enemy that's just basically this little girl that's completely unsettling, and not in the good way.
Oh, don't remind me of her. Oh my god.
Just Google her if you really want to know what it is. It's very disturbing. I've heard the development with the director for this. He was a complete asshole to the team.
Yes, he mistreated the developers.
If you want to know how ridiculous this gets, at what fucking point a plane basically crashes? Like 9/11 style. Like you don't see anything and then it just appears in the frame. It's just like that one episode of South Park at the end where Cartman made a plane crash. There's no sound or anything, but it just shows the sky in a building, and then just a few seconds later, you just see a plane just like start falling, and you notice it's on fire. The first time I saw that, I laughed my ass off so hard because this is so absolutely ridiculous.
It was the same with me. I'm just like, is that a plane burning in the
So
background?
basically, just a whole bunch of really weird shit happens in this weird city-like setting that switches back and forth between being Devil May Cry, Resident Evil. At one point, you're interrogating a demon that looks more like an alien, to be honest, who is supposed to be the daughter of Satan. It's also very edgy, by the way. They curse a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, is really out of character for Castlevania. And the final boss, I'm just going to jump to the final boss because that's still in my memory the most. It's been a while since I saw all this, and I don't want to replay it. It's maybe not on stream with people like going. The final boss is Satan again, only what I refer to him, and you're going to have an image on the video for this so everybody can see it. The final boss I refer to as Thunder Thighs Nathan Explosion. Because that's basically what he is. Satan reappears, but he has the legs of a goat and everything,
Wait,
like Baphomet, but they're like fucking huge, like just the muscle rippling.
Wait,
from
didn't
it.
I come up with that name?
No, I did.
Oh, you did. No, I came up with ball stack abs all the time.
That was Anthony, wasn't it?
No, that was me.
Oh, no, I was.
I shared it with...
I was, that's right, and he wouldn't stop me. Alucard's abs, they look
Like, it's like they...
totally unrealistic.
They
Yeah.
mirrored the textures. It looks like he really got 4 balls.
For a chest, yeah, for like his like stomach.
Yeah, that does look super.
It's super done. I think you fight him with Alucard at the end for some reason, which... Okay.
Yeah.
Again, Alucard's supposed to be fighting against his father, but his father isn't Dracula, now his father's Trevor, so I guess that doesn't matter. Why would Trevor ever name his child the reverse of Dracula? The thing he literally based his life around killing. That his whole
And the
family name
hilarious thing-
is sworn to kill and prevent from, hurting the innocent.
Trevor named his son Dracula because you can't name your son Rover.
Bad.
Rover.
Bad. I don't know what else to say about this game. All 3 of them are not good games, but the Sword of the Shadow 2, there's a special place in hell for that.
My mood after that hit, I was depressed for a week.
We should be
I
happy.
was-
that-
no,
I spent
was
money
legit-
on it, so yeah, I just watched a series of YouTube videos.
I
Why
was
it's not as
legit
fresh in my head. I only
You
watched
should be
cinema
happy
schools.
that you didn't have to play that peanut again.
I was immensely suppressed, and just so you know, I did take the disc out, and I literally snapped it in half and threw it in my fireplace. Because I couldn't stand that anymore. I was like, never again, like,
God.
Wow, that's a high level
Really
of
a
hatred.
holy fire baptism for that kid.
Well, this is...
It is it's well deserved, because I was depressed for a week after that. I hated it.
How's fire associated with baptism? Baptism is water.
Baptism of fire, I mean...
You be baptized by fire?
Yeah. It's
What religion is this?
biblical or...
The cool one.
Why do you think they burn witches at the stake? Is it because they get pure?
That's a load of shit, and you know why
Let
they
the
burn
RJ
witches
answer
at
that,
stake. If she does, what happens? Well, if she doesn't burn, she's a witch. Well, what if she is a witch? But she isn't a witch. Oh, then she dies. Either way, we'll know.
If she floats, she's a witch. Yeah, she ain't floating!
If she breathes, she's...
Oh God, no. Thoughtseize.
Are witches' thoughts?
I mean, they're probably the original thoughts, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, you know why broomsticks exist, right? So, what else is there in Castlevania history? Well, there's a lot of spin-offs.
It's Castlevania Judgment.
It is a fighting game with character designs by the Death Note,
Correct.
or artist in real life.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not on the cover.
So yeah, they hired this guy to make the character designs for this. A one-on-one 2D fighting game, the first and only Castlevania fighting game, and boy howdy is it strange.
I never played it. I kind
It's
of want
really
to.
edgy and no one acts in character, and it's not a good fighting game, and it's a novelty more or less.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
like you just play it to sit.
Is it harmless at least? Like it doesn't doesn't insult Castlevania or anything.
Well, I mean, it's
Yeah,
pretty,
I'm not
pretty
sure it's
insulting.
Shadow.
I guess there's not much to talk about with that. So
And there's Kid Dracula, which is another game, right?
yeah,
Very lighthearted kind of more or less like a parodious kind of version of Castlevania.
Basically.
pretty much yes. That's a good way to put it. It's just got the same cutesy art style.
It is important enough to be it's in the Castlevania collection you can buy on Steam and PS4. It's cute. I haven't personally played it, but I think it's amusing that a lot of this, unfortunately, is in the past.
Yeah, this entire podcast is
Yeah.
almost entirely the past, unfortunately, because the president of Castlevania is very grim.
Yes.
Before we go off the games completely, there is one game, Grimoire of Souls. If not Harmony of Despair was a cash grab, this is worse.
So it is a mobile game. It's a mobile 2D, 2.5D platformer that has protagonists throughout each of the series, and there's like missions and stuff, but
It's like, hey, you like Dissidia? No? Oh, okay, well here's Castlevania Dissidia. That's all it is. I mean, alright, I'm not gonna say Dissidia, like, at least the original one was bad, but the idea itself is tired, and it's just recycling characters that already exist instead of actually trying to come up with a new story. Which would have been, a million times better. Also, it's touch controls for a side scroller. No!
You think we'll get in the way of the screen? That's
Oh,
not
but-
something you want.
Now things that are sort of games
so
still.
there's a Castlevania Pachinko game.
There we go.
Pachinko game.
Sexy succubus.
Yeah, it's the kind of game where if you
Get
hit
that
certain...
critical.
Is that the one where they go like sexual violence? Or
Yes,
something?
that's what I was alluding
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, so they released this ridiculous trailer that basically like shoved boobs in your face and claimed 1000% sexual violence.
What? Konami! What the fuck? And there's gonna be a Silent Hill slot machine, so it's Konami.
Here's Pyramid Head,
Pay
guys.
attention to Capcom, man! Learn! They learned! You can too!
And then we have the Netflix Castlevania,
Alright, we'll talk about
which
that.
is, even though it's animated in Japan, it's completely written voice acting in the West by comic book writer Warren Ellis, who's very West.
And this is no
Yes,
exception.
And unfortunately, this IP Castlevania delivers an experience as valiant but ultimately terrible.
I agree.
It adapts the story of Castlevania.
It
tries to tie
does
It
loosely.
tries to tie in.
Yeah, I think it's good fun. It's committing the same sins as Lords of Shadow, but it's got really edgy dialogue,
it's
so
basically around-
people.
Basically, this time
Meme
period
shit.
of Curse of Darkness and Castlevania. Except they take symphony designs and they apply them.
Oh,
There's only one thing I gotta say about it. I'll say the only one small good thing is the fact that I heard the nice Bloody Took theme for it during the fight scenes.
Yeah, but it was.
Like the
good.
only thing.
I don't like it because of how out of character. I was like, oh, that's how exactly I expect them to act. Like, really? They should
No.
play the games? Seriously, it's
This-
not. The Trevor goes from acting what he essentially was originally is more of a valiant, hero at the Belmont and everything. And if you look at the actual box art of Castlevania 3 of Dracula's Curse, it does not look anything like how they portrayed him. Like,
To be fair, however, Trevor did undergo a reboot.
yeah, and we already agreed that Curse of Darkness isn't exactly the greatest Castlevania game in
But it's canon.
So it's either way though, that's already a revamping. I'm going by what originally was set forth, and basically they kind of just turned Trevor into a douchebag.
Well, that I can agree with.
He just kind of seems like your typical, like, just douchebag hero. Like, this is a Western story, but by far. This does not follow Eastern story paradigms. I mean, if you like it, you like it. I personally don't. None of us here personally do.
yeah.
If you want to defend it in the comments or just read and keyboard type for a month, go for it. I just
What
don't
else
have
you
much
gonna
to
say?
say about it,
As
and I
opposed to
did watch
mentally
all of
typing.
season 1 and most of season 2. By the time it got to Camilla, I just couldn't take it anymore. Also, what they did with Isaac, I felt was really stupid, and Hector was more or less the same, except for they gave him a zombie dog. That's the issue with this too. Like, it takes a lot of creative liberties to kind of do the
I
whole
feel though like
checkbox thing. Make sure you have the cute thing here, but they purposely gave him a zombie. Why couldn't you have like a fucking? They're in the middle of the woods. It would have been a wolf or something, like a Wolverine or something. It was something bigger. A dog would not be around.
Yeah. So,
Let alone a little one, by the way. It wasn't that big. And then they turned. First off, they made Isaac black, which I don't have a problem with a black character, but one, it just. And then they also tried to make him like a slave. So they went back and tried to use the real world history thing, which has nothing to do with his character. I don't even know why. There's nothing wrong with a character where that's kind of the thing they're going with it, if it's supposed to make you feel for them or something. I mean, slavery is bad. No one's disagreeing here. But why? Why? I don't understand the phrase. The characters are just assholes. Like Butch Hartman wrote it. Alright, we're done.
we also neglected to mention that Koji Igarashi or Iga left Konami.
Yeah, he was working on a bunch of janky mobile games.
late 2000.
Yeah, so he quit, and then through Kickstarter, he got a brand new game in the form of Bloodstained, which is almost exactly the same as Castlevania in pretty much every way, and it is what people actually want.
Yeah, also what was really cool for a Kickstarter goal, we also got Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which was a throwback to Castlevania 3 that was created by Any Creates, which is the same company that made the Mega Man Zeros.
As well as the Gunvolt series.
Gunvolt. And that game basically follows the same concepts of Castlevania 3, where you meet 3 characters, all with different abilities.
It's a prequel to the Bloodstained
Yes,
story.
I was going to get to it. All with different abilities that are useful both for the level design, the music is fantastic. It basically feels like an NES game but it can do a little bit more than NES ever could, just like Shovel Knight, basically. It mirrors that look, but they intentionally had it still do things that NES never could. So it's the same type of sprites, but it's definitely showing way more color than NES ever could. Yeah. The music still sounds better than it. And the story is just basically Zangetsu is a swordsman who senses a powerful demon nearby, and meeting the three characters who are very important to Ritual, including the main character, Miriam, another character that probably I get killed. But, I mean, it doesn't matter, though, because it's beautiful, it plays great, and then Ritual of the Night plays great as well. It had a few hiccups. Don't buy the Switch version. Just don't.
Because the company that ported it was not this.
Yeah, it was developed in Unreal.
And then they ported it over to the Switch.
Anybody doesn't know, Unreal Engine, while you can make games for Switch in it, you need a team that knows a lot of what they're doing. It took a while for Square to even port Dragon Quest XI to the Switch. Because Dragon Quest XI was made in Unreal. Oh,
Kingdom Hearts 3 is also.
The only one that was Final Fantasy.
15 was not Unreal.
No, it was part of more of its money hole. They built a whole engine for it.
That's why they did Pocket Edition.
Yep, there's no way they could use that engine. Other than that, though, the PC, the PS4 version, and there's an Xbox version too. I mean, I guess someone has an Xbox One. I mean, a lot of people do. I mean, I have it. I don't play it. I bought it for Gears. That's it.
I never went out of my way to buy one of them.
There's no other reason to. Why do you have an Xbox? I want to play Gears and Halo, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only reason I got it. Halo and Gears.
It's the only reason to own an Xbox. Now, anyway. Original Xbox 360 was a bit different.
So, arguably, Bloodstained is it's the logical conclusion of the idea of let's make another Metroidvania, even if it's not like Castlevania.
And I go
because Castlevania
pulled it off.
In lieu of Konami not caring, there have been dozens, if not hundreds, of other Metroidvanias that have come out and refined this concept.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like Hollow Knight is a very famous example of that.
I still need to play that. Yes.
But there's lots of games.
Axiom Verge is another one.
So
we even played a Toho game that was basically more or less Aria of Sorrow.
Toho Luminites, and there's also Time Spinner, which pretty much rips off the entire art style of Symphony Night. Blasphemous, which is another game that came out very recently.
So good.
But the issue,
Blasphemous
the thing
is
with
great.
all
It's
these,
a little bit slow for a Metroidvania, or a Soulsvania as it calls it, but the pixel art is absolutely beautiful, and I strongly still recommend it.
So
the industry is amazing.
Yeah, but the
It's a
thing is,
gorgeous
though,
game.
these are all just games that play off a lot of the concepts in gameplay. But we haven't really had a real Castlevania game since the DS, still, to be honest.
I have a feeling that they're going to do another collection of the Game Boy Advance and DS games.
That's the one thing. Konami, much like a lot of Japanese developers in this generation, they didn't really make new games. They just re-released their old ones a million times, which, okay, unless you were somewhat tech-savvy or, didn't really care about morals, we played all these years ago, legally. But, Rondo of Blood, I play on a PC when somebody found a way to actually make it work on a PC. That was awesome. And, like I said, you can have, like, the G games when they came out, but you can also, of course, buy them, which we did. Support those, of course. But now, all the rare cartridges, Bloodlines, Rondo of Blood, all that stuff was released in collections, and they've gone over them, they've changed the dialogue, they've changed the artwork, and it's up to you what you want to do. There's a bunch of YouTubers out there that will just gladly tell you what versions have what. So there's plenty of information out there, but despite all of this, the very clear demand that it's out there, no, we don't want to make another game. It's too much work. Here's the same one again, in a compilation. Buy it, $30.
Arguably, I think with Igavania, there's no one there who knows how to make this kind of game.
Man, there are people that I'm sure that played the originals like, I would love the chance to direct a new Castlevania. I'm sure somebody there would love it.
Arguably, they're already making them under their own. No one's going to want to play by Konami's rules. I think the only company that would ever want to bother with that is Mercury's name. They're off making their own shitty MOBA.
I would be very happy if Mercury Steam never went near any of the franchises I love ever again.
Yeah.
Samus Returns it's fine as a game, much just the same as the Lords of Shadow, but it's not Metroid. Samus doesn't need weird action timing events for a 2D Metroid game. It's just stupid. Play M2R. Seriously, you can find it online. I don't care what Nintendo says. You can find it. It's not hard.
Point is, there's plenty of games that are more or less continuing the Castlevania tradition, whether it be Metroidvania or not. And those games are fantastic, and we'll support your indie developers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think it's going to slow anytime soon either. So that's probably going to be where we're going to be looking to get most of our Castlevania fixed for quite a while still for the independent developers. But, Capcom saw the light recently with Devil May Cry and Resident Evil. And
here's a thought. What if there was a Devil May Cry...
Fully Mega Man X!
What if there was a Devil May Cry Mania?
Ah, that would be...
That would work if you split it between 3 guys.
Yeah, that'd be cool if it were done right.
Dante, Virgil, Nero. Done.
How
Let's
would
go, right now.
I mean, how would you translate the style system into 2D, though?
You know how I'm doing that already.
Yeah, less said the better. So, in conclusion, I would love to see another game, but I don't know if I can trust Konami to do it correctly. Or any of their...
Konami to do anything correctly.
Yeah, they fucked.
Have you seen the new Contra? It's not Contra!
Can we not speak about Contra there? Yeah, if you want to know about Contra,
We'll do
watch
a Contra episode. It'll be a lot shorter.
So, fingers crossed, I doubt anything will happen, but I'm glad that people who love the original games are out there making their own thing and not having to deal with Konami. So, that's all. I think that's all we really need to say. This is by far the longest episode we've ever recorded, which I think is a good record for our 10th episode.
I think Castlevania is a game with a lot of really rich history behind
Yes.
it. It started off, honestly, like a lot of things, as a joke. Let's be honest here. Castlevania, just like Final Fantasy, was basically a throwaway game that was an overnight success.
Yes. Honestly, sometimes the
What's
most
the thing
genuine
with Final
products
Fantasy?
are like...
The thing that's funny is with Final Fantasy side, it says it's going to be the last game we're going to make. It's going to call Final Fantasy. There we go.
Yep, that was the only reason.
15 iterations
Based
later.
on their D&D campaign, from what you told me.
Yes. Yeah, well, the original Final Fantasy was based on the developer's D&D campaign.
But I mean, anyone with half a brain cell knows that Konami is kind of fudging it right now. But I'm curious what your thoughts are regarding all of this. Do you think Konami is going to see Capcom and kinda sorta Square? I mean, Dragon Quest XI was a success at least. Because Capcom, Konami, and Square used to be the big three not too long ago.
Yeah.
So I'd love for Konami to be like, maybe we should start doing things that make sense again. Things that people want instead of Metal Gear Survive. Or do you think we're just going to be stuck with indie titles? Are there any other also titles that you could recommend that have that Castlevania flavor? Tell me about it in the comments section. I'm very bad asking you to do this, but I think you get the point.
Well, you've done the call to action 10 times so far, so I think you've gotten pretty good.
Shill.
Right,
My shill skills are increasing.
y'all can follow GamerRez at GamerRez. You can follow DeftBeck at DeftBeck. Melora, I don't know if you want to show your Twitter. Okay. And Shadow doesn't have a Twitter, and he is smarter for that.
I'm GamerRez.
I'm DeftBeck.
I'm Melora.
And I'm Shadow.
And thank you very much for listening. Have a great whenever you're listening to it.
Have
I was going to say night because we were
Have a great time listening to the next thing on your podcast list.
Yes. All right.
Or
See you
YouTube
later,
channel.
everyone.